The beginning of Moses' story a long time ago, in the ancient land of Egypt, there lived a group of people called the Hebrews. At one time, they were welcomed with open arms by the Pharaoh, who was the king of Egypt. They worked hard and lived happily in the land. But as time passed, the Egyptians began to fear the Hebrews because their numbers grew so large. The Pharaoh worried that if the Hebrews kept growing, they might become too powerful and take over Egypt. To keep the Hebrews from multiplying, Pharaoh decided to do something very harsh. He made a terrible rule that ordered all Hebrew baby boys to be killed. He wanted to stop their growth by frightening them, but he didn't realize that his cruel actions would lead to something important. The Hebrew midwives, brave women who helped deliver babies, were told to carry out this awful order. But these midwives knew in their hearts that killing innocent babies was wrong. One of these midwives, named Shiphrah, along with her friend Puah, chose to stand against Pharaoh's cruel law. They refused to kill the baby boys. Instead, they helped the mothers and let the boys live. They trusted God to protect them and the newborns. When Pharaoh asked the midwives why they had not followed his order, Shiphrah and Puah cleverly told him that the Hebrew women were strong and gave birth before they could even arrive to help. During this time, a woman from the tribe of Levi was pregnant. When she gave birth, she saw that her baby was a beautiful boy and wanted to keep him safe. She was terrified that Pharaoh's soldiers would come to take him away. So, she made a brave choice. She hid her baby boy for 3 months, keeping him quiet and safe from danger. She loved him so much and wanted to protect him from the evil orders of the king. But as time went on, it became harder to keep the baby hidden. He was growing stronger and starting to cry louder. The mother knew she had to think of a new plan or risk losing her child. With a heavy heart, she decided to put her baby into a papyrus basket. She carefully coated the basket with tar and pitch to make it waterproof. Then, she placed her precious baby inside and gently set the basket among the reeds along the edge of the Nile River. This scene was both heartbreaking and courageous. The mother knew it was a risk, but she held on to hope that her baby would be safe. She must have prayed with all her heart, asking God to protect her son. She trusted that somehow, he would be found and cared for. As the sun shone over the river, the basket floated peacefully among the tall reeds. Little did she know that this decision would lead to a wonderful and unexpected turn of events. One day, Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to take a bath. She was surrounded by her attendants, enjoying the warm sunshine and the gentle sounds of the river. While she played in the water, she noticed something unusual in the reeds. Curious, she sent one of her attendants to investigate. When the attendant brought the basket to her, Pharaoh's daughter opened it and saw a crying baby inside. Her heart filled with compassion when she realized this was one of the Hebrew babies. She knew that he was in danger, and instead of following her father's cruel orders, she decided to adopt him. She felt a special bond with the child and named him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. Meanwhile, the baby's sister had been watching from a distance as all of this unfolded. She quickly thought of a clever idea and approached Pharaoh's daughter. "Would you like me to find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you?" she asked. Pharaoh's daughter happily agreed, saying, "Yes, go and get someone." The baby's sister rushed home to fetch their mother, who joyfully returned to care for her own child. Can you imagine how relieved and thankful she must have felt? Here she was, getting to raise her baby boy after all the fear and worry. Pharaoh's daughter had a heart full of compassion, and she promised to take care of him as her own child. As Moses grew older, he lived in Pharaoh's palace, enjoying all the comforts and privileges that came with being a prince. He received a great education and learned about many things, including reading, writing, and the history of Egypt. He had a life of luxury that most people could only dream about. Yet, deep inside him, he knew he was different. He was not an Egyptian, he was a Hebrew. Moses often walked around the palace and the city, seeing his people, the Hebrews, laboring hard under the heavy yoke of slavery. They suffered greatly, treated as if they were less than human, forced to build cities and carry heavy burdens. As he grew older, Moses began to feel a strong connection to his people. He couldn't ignore the cries of the Hebrews anymore. The tension inside him grew stronger. He was a prince raised in the palace, yet his heart belonged to the people in misery. One day, Moses decided to take a walk and visit his people. As he watched them work, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, one of his own people. Anger surged through him like a hot fire. How could anyone hurt another person like that? At that moment, Moses felt a rush of emotions. He couldn't stand by and watch any longer. Filled with rage and wanting to protect his fellow Hebrew, he approached the Egyptian when he thought no one was looking. In a moment of fury, Moses killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand, hoping no one noticed. But the action he took, born out of anger and a desire for justice, changed everything in his life. The next day, he witnessed two Hebrews fighting and tried to separate them. One of them turned to Moses angrily and said, "Who made you our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" At that moment, Moses realized that people knew his secret, and fear washed over him. When Pharaoh found out about the Egyptian's death, he wanted to kill Moses. So, Moses fled from Egypt, escaping to a place far away called Midian. He was scared and felt lost, leaving behind the life he had known. He had thought he could save his people, but now he was running for his life. In Midian, Moses found refuge in a new land. There, he sat by a well and tried to forget his troubles. While resting, he met a priest of Midian named Jethro, who had 7 daughters. One day, when the daughters went to water their father's flock, some rough shepherds chased them away. Moses stepped in and defended the girls, driving the shepherds off. When Jethro heard about Moses' bravery, he invited Moses to stay with his family. He welcomed him warmly and offered him a place to live. Over time, Moses fell in love with one of Jethro's daughters named Zipporah, and they got married. They had a son together, whom Moses named Gershom, meaning "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." This name reflected how Moses felt. Though he had found a new family and home, he still missed his people and felt like he didn't belong. As the years passed, Moses worked as a shepherd. He learned about the ways of the desert and took care of the flock. But in his heart, the call of his people never left him. He remembered the cries of the Hebrews in Egypt and felt something stirring inside him. God was preparing him for a great mission, even while he tended sheep under the hot sun. One day, while Moses was leading his flock to the far side of the desert, he came to a mountain called Horeb, also known as the Mountain of God. It was there that everything changed forever. As he was watching the sheep, he saw something amazing, a bush that was on fire but wasn't burning up. Moses couldn't believe his eyes. It was an extraordinary sight. So, he walked closer to see what was happening. When he approached, he heard a voice calling his name, "Moses, Moses." It was God speaking to him from the burning bush. Moses was afraid, but he answered, "Here I am." God told him to take off his sandals because he was standing on holy ground. God revealed his name and said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Moses was in awe and hid his face, feeling the weight of God's presence. Then God shared his plan with Moses. "I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries, and now I am sending you to lead them to freedom." Moses was filled with doubt. "Who am I to go to Pharaoh? What if they don't believe me?" God reassured him, saying, "I will be with you." This was just the beginning of an incredible journey that would change the lives of so many people. Moses was about to become the leader God had chosen for his people. But first, he had to overcome his fears and doubts. And so, the first part of Moses' story unfolds, a tale of courage, hope, and the surprising ways God works to bring about amazing change. Little did he know that his life was about to take a dramatic turn, and through faith and trust in God, he would become one of the greatest leaders in history. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment for more stories.